Right. Hey everybody, this is Paul from Particl, and I got some special guys with me right now, Joe and Cap from the team, from the community, from the advisory board, and what we're doing, we thought we'd get together. You guys have been seeing on social and community forums and everything that we've been, really active and hitting a couple events so far this past month, and actually got a couple coming up. And so we thought it'd be a really cool opportunity just to kind of give a debrief of how everything went. It's hard when you're not there and you want to hear all the different connections we're making, all the people super excited about the marketplace and the project and future stuff. So, we thought we'd take this opportunity to do it. So with that, what we'll do is we'll try to hit into World CryptoCon, which we were at, and San Francisco Blockchain Week. We have some upcoming things, which is I think a Berlin blockchain event, and Slush, which is actually in Helsinki. So those are coming up. But I guess I'll just turn it over to one of the guys. So with me, I have Kapoor, Joe Sky from our community, Dr. Kapil, and he actually did a speaking. He was a speaker at San Francisco Blockchain Week, so we had an opportunity to talk there about the marketplace and a bunch of things. And then Joe's obviously one of our advisors, and as always, these guys were boots on the ground. There's a lot of other people we could have brought on, but we thought we'd just hit with a couple people, kind of give you guys a download of everything that went down. So without further ado, one of you guys, it doesn't matter who, you want to kick off maybe with, how about Vegas? How was Vegas?
Okay.
I kind of let it all off.
Okay, well, I would definitely talk about what happened at Money 2020 and also at the World CryptoCon in Vegas. And we were actually, we as in some people from the Particl team were actually invited by people from the Spend.com team to actually go and spend a day with them at Money 2020. Money 2020 is a massive fintech conference, and I never attended it before or had necessarily done any research on it, but it turned out to be a gigantic event. It was not hugely dissimilar to some of the kind of cryptocurrency or like the blockchain conferences. The only difference is that this Money 2020 conference was about 5 times bigger. I was probably inside of one of the largest physical spaces I've ever been inside my entire life. I'm going to guess it was probably 100 acres under a roof. That's about what it felt like. And all the big players were there in kind of traditional finance, and so I was actually able to run that floor for almost a couple days, trying to just kind of see what was happening inside fintech and also the traditional finance and banking sphere. It was at Money 2020 that we were able to finally solidify being able to bring on Brian Woods, who's the president of Spends.com, as a strategic advisor. He actually first was able to see what we were doing with Particl all the way back in May when we were at Consensus. And he was very impressed at seeing the marketplace. And he's told me on numerous occasions ever since then that his opinion was that the Spend.com team and also the Particl team seemed to be heading towards a similar goal in the future of trying to decrease friction for people using cryptocurrency or digital currency for kind of more mainstream uses. And he saw no reason why we shouldn't start the long process of becoming closer now, basically. And so they invited us to Money 2020, and I was able to go, and it was a great time. It was kind of eye-opening to see just how big of an event that conference was for the fintech sphere. It gives me a bit of taste of things to come, specifically for crypto and blockchain. And overall, I feel like it was a very useful experience for us to have at least some small amount of representation on the ground at that show. And we were and like I said before, we were also able to officially bring Brian on at that time as a strategic advisor. And so I'm very much looking forward to seeing, what we can do with his input, and also seeing what kind of future collaborations we might be able to manifest through Brian between Spend.com and or also any other interesting partnerships or opportunities that he sees kind of in the future. The one thing that seemed to catch a lot of people's attention at this FinTech conference, and also Brian specifically, is that Brian himself personally kind of considers the Particl project a bit of trend setting, and setting a goalpost for a kind of decentralized, a decentralized blockchain-based economy. And he understands the fundamental differences between what we've created with our open marketplace and all of the other products that have existed before, whether or not they were able to use cryptocurrency. And so he's definitely capable of seeing kind of the bigger, longer picture. He's seeing the 1, 3, and even the 5-year time horizon at a minimum. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about that. And shortly after, yeah.
So I guess, Joe, real quick, like with
Money. Yep. Go ahead.
With Money 2020, specifically that one, you said it was really good having, kind of like a presence on the floor for that, and obviously some of the, potential, ramifications and benefits it is to have Spend as a, partner or whatever. With the significance of Money 2020, are there anything I guess that stood out specific to Particl that you could see,
yes,
coming from that?
So in relation to anything that I think is going to have traction for bringing opportunities to Particl directly, really I was primarily focused on Spend, and spending as much time with them. However, I did make several loops of the floor. Well, as much of it as I could see. It was literally too much for you to actually see in just one day. However, what I was really surprised to see, I have a fairly long history working in e-commerce and also product development, but it's been a few years now since I've been actively, super actively involved with either of those things. And what really surprised me at Money 2020 was that there was a massive amount of personnel and infrastructure at that conference, specifically trying to sell services that I think that Particl and or blockchain or decentralized economies basically make completely irrelevant. I felt that every third booth, and some of these booths probably cost $250,000 just for one booth. Some of these booths, were selling the exact same type of service, such as trying to offer a better, slightly lower cost payment gateway for your merchant processing, offering insurance for chargebacks or buybacks, trying to offer, reward programs, or tracking the users of, like a rewards card that you issue for your business. It just seemed to be an entire conference worth an immense amount of capital that was mostly comprised of what I would consider to be like third-party handlers of data or I guess financial instruments. And coming from such a pure crypto space that we've all been in, I really didn't even understand the purpose of much of it. I'm sure that there's a huge amount of demand for some of these services, but I found myself just continually wondering, why the kind of traditional sphere was still operating inside of this ecosystem when we've seen, blockchain digital currencies make so many of these problems a moot point, such as, how long it takes to transfer money to a wholesaler in some foreign country, and how you might have slippage in the Forex markets, and you might dilute your buying power over the 48 hours it took for your money to clear. This is a huge industry. And so I think that I would say that I was almost shocked at at the disparity between awareness of what's happening inside crypto and blockchain among the people attending this conference. I would consider people that would put the resources and money into attending a show like 2020 to be, I guess, I don't want to say cutting edge, but I would definitely say successful and educated inside fintech. And it just seemed as if they just were continuing with business as usual inside of what appears to me to be an entire ecosystem, filled with services and service providers that I don't see have a future if cryptocurrency and blockchain continue to get bigger. And so, I don't want to denigrate any of the individual, businesses I saw there, but it was just a tremendous amount of third-party services, the value of which I really was struggling to understand, because I'm coming at this from, a cryptocurrency, personally sovereign standpoint, and it just was kind of a culture shock for me, actually. And so that's the single biggest takeaway that I have, other than the fact that it was a giant conference, and these companies spent an untold fortune of money to be there and attend it.
Yeah, that's great insight. Yeah. It's crazy because you'd think that it almost sounds like those guys, the projects that are starting to, they're definitely hitting something where adoption's easier. Crypto adoption's hard for us because it's still a techie, hard to understand thing. But so you can build a product and use traditional sort of the last vestige of what's left to actually make a business, but it is on its way out. And yeah, like you're saying, you think you'd have the foresight. Well, some people do, some people don't, but it's interesting to see that the foresight's longer term than just maybe, the next 10 years versus the last 10 years. Yeah.
I agree. And to build on what you just said, the thing is that a lot of these service providers, their services were not simplistic. This was just strictly back-end software that required a tremendous amount of integration, or it was very kind of complex, weird-looking, like financial modeling software. You had to actually attend a class to learn how to program to evaluate what's happening inside your network. It's really funny. In some ways, I actually feel that from a usability standpoint or a deployment standpoint, much of the crypto projects I would see at, say, the San Francisco Blockchain Week conference actually seemed way more like, forward-facing among the consumer or like a small and medium business owner. And so I don't really know what to say, in response to your comments there, because I don't even really understand, who's going to be buying these incredibly, expensive softwares from some of these, fintech providers. Yet here they are at a giant conference, and I overheard some gentleman saying I was standing talking to someone else, and I overheard some people waiting in line to get some hors d'oeuvres or drinks or something, and I heard a gentleman say, "Yeah, 3 years ago this show was all about blockchain, and that's over. Last year it was just about machine, and yeah, that was over. Last year it was machine learning, and thank God we're not dealing with that. This year we haven't figured out what the theme is." And so you can just tell this is a massively entrenched culture that's kind of isolated. Now, granted, they obviously are commanding a tremendous amount of influence, and their ecosystem is probably 10 times bigger than the entire cryptocurrency. Right. But it was interesting to hear. It was definitely interesting to hear, and it was also interesting for me to see that it's just business as usual for these folks. And I actually genuinely believe that even the people trying to sell me stuff on that floor at that show still didn't really have much epiphany about blockchain or digital currencies at all. Mm-hmm. And so it just made it difficult for me to listen to some of these pitches sometimes, and because I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but all I was hearing was just friction and pain points that just simply don't exist inside of blockchain the way that I understand it. And so what I saw, I guess in a way, I think it was kind of sobering to see this whole industry still just kind of operating above and or outside of crypto and blockchain. But at the same time, I think it also gave me a bit of realization just how little penetration on how little penetration cryptocurrency and blockchain has actually had inside this industry. I don't think fintech has seen a crypto epiphany or a Satoshi's dream moment, and it's going to be interesting to see what very first piece of software, hopefully Particl, or an implementation thereof of some of our technology could be one of those aha moments for that space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's almost like they still have the mindset. You build it and then you sell it, right? So they're startups, so they're going to build it, then they're hopefully sell it off, and they'll, it's all about I'm a 5-time builder or 10-time builder or whatever it is, like entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So the easy way. Well, okay, so was that in Vegas, or did you get?
Yep.
Then you guys walk down the hall to CryptoCon. Was Cap there?
So I
no.
Cap.
No, shoot, Joe.
He was holding the front line. Cap was holding the front line in California. World CryptoCon. I was there just for one day. Immediately after 2020, I was already exhausted. I don't have a whole lot to report because it was just kind of a serendipitous streak of luck that I actually was able to catch the last day of CryptoCon, because spend in 2020 was my focus. I feel like CryptoCon was a pretty small conference. I felt as if they had designed the conference for quite a bit more attendance than they actually had. I think it's because they scheduled it at the same time of some stuff happening in San Francisco. However, I made a few good connections at CryptoCon. Some people from some big exchanges, some people that have been following Particl for some time. Had just some genuine eye contact, one-on-one conversations with several people. Some of the main Monero team people were there, and that was kind of fun. They saw me walking by, and I didn't even notice them, and they called me over, and we dorked out really hard for almost a full hour. They seemed to be thankful to see somebody there representing another project that they felt was trying to do some good work, and we had a nice rapport with each other. It was really fun. I'm looking forward to catching up with the Monero people again. Mm-hmm. And then beyond that, I just have a list of people that I have to painstakingly recontact, and we'll kind of see what comes of it. But CryptoCon was a smaller event, but I'm glad that I attended for the day.
Great. Well, that's cool. So like you said, so Cap, we want to leave you hanging there. So Joe, I think Joe was part of the group. I think CryptoGuard and Joe were out in Vegas with Money 2020. They showed up over at San Francisco. At the same time, we had already started putting, making a home in San Francisco with a big group. I believe we had 8 or 9, maybe 10 folks there. And like I said earlier, one of the speakers for that event, which is a really well-known Bitcoin event, was our own little, Dr. Cap. If you guys saw him on social, he did a really good intro that I think got the crowd excited. And I heard nothing but good things about your talk and just some of the event stuff. So you want to just kind of go ahead, it's your floor. What do you want to debrief on?
So San Francisco blockchain is taking place essentially at the same time as Money 2020. So for the first half, we actually had 8 people on the ground initially for the first 3 days of 5 for San Francisco, and then Joe, CryptoGuard, and Christina kind of managed to join us for the second half of the event at the epicenter. I would say it was divided up into 3 stages for me personally. So the first 2 days were based at the Four Seasons, and that was essentially an academic talks. The wildfires in California had led to electrical cutout, but we moved the whole event with a day's notice. I met some very interesting people there. I got chatting to quite a few people. We were talking about the project Okay, so we've met some really interesting VCs.
Yeah.
We used Umbrella app to connect with people, and even though we didn't have a formal stand at that particular event, we were just able to set up a laptop at a table, and we're just showing off the marketplace to various people. And they're really impressed with what we were doing. So it was just a really nice warm-up event. I met Justin Wise, Scott Langton, and his crew over at Breaking Bitcoin, and cracking cryptocurrency, and they do the Breaking Bitcoin podcast. We did an amazing interview there. I think it was one of the best that we mutually had. Had a lot of them doing that. And just went to a couple of really interesting talks. Now, it then kind of, we got invited from there. There was a guy that was scouting people for an event from Outlier Ventures. And he
Do you know who that was? Do you have,
I can't
was
remember
it
his name.
Jamie Burke?
Ho is the head of Outlier Ventures.
Jay-
He was the author of that event, and one of his main guys, who's a really amazing guy. I just cannot remember his name for the life of me. But he was
Would it
scouting.
happen to have been Jamie Burke?
No, it wouldn't have been Jamie Burke.
Okay. Just curious.
No. But basically, he got invited to an Outliers event. And that was really fascinating. So that was the third day for me. And that's where you may have seen like the Periscope that Ben uploaded, where I'm doing the crazy pitch with the funny voices and the evangelical tilt. Basically, what they'd done was they managed to get a ton of polymaths and VCs into a room. And actually, some of the most interesting conversations I actually had were at the Outliers event. They took people out to kind of network them together. It was very well done. They obviously need to tweak their format a little, but it led to like a little stand-up pitch battle. The video that you saw on that day where I'm kind of going all crazy and kooky, it was literally a case of towards the end of that day, pizza had gone out, people were towards the back, they were drinking, chatting. The guys that came on before me were struggling to get any real attention, so I'd read out the crowd and was like, okay, they were going to need a bit of humor to catch some attention. So it was really nice to kind of give an impromptu pitch along those lines. And it attracted some real interest there. You know, we were talking to guys from Harmony, guys from Google, guys from Synsoft. There's a few people actually. There's quite a few people there. There's like 10 people on the top of my mind that I need to chase up from that event. And then actually moving on to the epicenter afterwards, which is where I gave the industry speech. We had a booth there. It was a pretty big event in its own right. There were about 30 to 40 stands. Our booth was understandably pretty busy throughout. We met with a lot of VCs, a lot of higher ups, a lot of people who are potentially interested in joining our advisory. We've been to quite a few sort of events and after parties and kind of post-week events, and it was just really nice to connect with a lot of people there. I mean, on my own, I must have made, me personally, I must have had about 40 different conversations that need following up, and between the team, it's going to be several hundred easily. We have a big list of people that have stopped by, and what I thought was really fascinating was just like, you know, some of my favorite stories was the guy who had invented e-gift cards just totally got our project. I'm not going to give the name, he wants to work with us, he wants to help us out, so I just need to get in touch with him and start meeting. But he then went to my talk at the industry stage and personally shook my hand after the talk because he said it was just brilliant. And that means a lot to me.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, that's, no one said that to me at Money 2020, but all I could think is what I understand about what we're building and what other people are building inside the blockchain space. And that was my gut feeling when I was on the floor at that FinTech conference.
Yeah, people get it. People who are attending this, they're kind of gravitating towards us. You know, it got to a stage where I was getting double booked, almost triple booked at point and having to reschedule around people because we're getting so much interest. And this is bearing in mind we had 11 people on the ground. You know, going back to what I'm saying, I knew about, like you, I knew about spend.com from Consensus in May from that point, and I've kept quiet because the thing is, all of these partnerships, all of these collaborations, all of these connections, they take time to mature. You've got to actually reach out to people, talk to them, you know, start a dialogue. These things aren't things that happen overnight. You know, we're not crypto traders here. We're actually intelligent investors going, you know, we're intelligent investors. We're very forward thinking, very forward looking. We've got a real vision at hand, and it's going back to what you said about Brian Woods, who's seeing the bigger picture in terms of 5 years. You know, I'm looking into the 10-year picture here, but you know, 1, 2, 5, 10. To me, this is a very long-term project. It's very big. I was writing an article for Coin. I'm not going to say the name of the publication, but one of my responses
Coin something.
Was
bit something. Coin something.
I won't. But one of my responses to one of their questions was, you know, tell us what you do, and I was basically saying, look, with us, you can basically buy goods cheaper, and vendors can make it in such a way that that competitive advantage will be maintained until we either absorb every vendor on the planet, or traditionally providers and competitors build identical platforms, and then we reach market saturation. And that's the inevitability of our model. And if you really look into the tokenomics there, you know, to quote the great Thanos, to misquote him, we are inevitable.
Well, I think one of the takeaways listening to both of you is that, you know, none of this is like, you know, you guys are talking about all these different people that wanted to talk to you and hear about the project and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we were just like Consensus, just like Magical Crypto, all of that. I mean, people are truly interested in what we're building and what we're trying to, you know, even though it's still kind of grassroots. Like, I think, you know, I kind of get numbers every once in a while that we're like at 120 or 140 escrows or something like that going down. But I mean, it's purely grassroots, but you can see the the need for what we're trying to achieve, but then also like the desire, I think, from people that really get it, that this is really what we should be trying to work towards and everything. And it's really, I think from their end, it's really exciting to see a team that actually is trying to achieve that and actually succeeding in achieving it by, I mean, here's the product. It's real software on blockchain. I mean, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's solving a lot of things. So, you know, I know it comes across like everybody wants to talk to us or hear about, you know, I mean, like listen to all these, you know, great things that people were meeting and stuff. But I mean, these are people that are coming up to us because I think they're truly interested in what we're doing and seeing. And it's really exciting for them to actually see working software on the chain and actually solving things. So that's, I think, one of the takeaways I get from just listening to what you guys are saying.
Well, so I hear I'll add something funny to this that I think Dr. Cap is going to like. So, you know, he just said that, you know, there's really only two inevitable futures in the extreme long term, and that's kind of, I would say that's kind of my intuition as well. The difference is between me and other people that aren't nearly as close to this project as we are, is that I had one or two conversations total during this. Either one was either at WCC or one was at the Epicenter. But there's actually a lot of people that are coming into the blockchain space from some experience with e-commerce or some kind of like digital online marketplace of some kind or another. And someone at the Epicenter, I made some joke after I gave them the whole story, what we did. It took 5 minutes for me to explain it. this gentleman goes, "Wow, I really get it. Wow, that seems like it was a ton of work." And I just made a joke offhand. I just said, "Yeah, it was a lot of work. I don't recommend that you try to replicate this on your own." And he laughed, and he goes, "Why would I?" And I go, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes, "Why would I copy you? Because you already did, and I don't have to pay anything to use you, except for whatever, small blockchain transaction fee." And he's like, "So what is that? Like a penny?" I'm like, "Yeah, probably." And he goes, "Yeah, like you. There's." He basically made a very strong and convincing argument to me that we've actually built something that isn't. There's no real desire. There's no real incentive to even try to mess with us. What are you going to do? Are you going to knock a nearly trivial fee down to an even more trivial amount? It doesn't work that way. I mean, one way or another, say a year down the road where we have a bit more functionality built into our marketplace client, and or we have SDKs, the ability to have unlimited markets with an SDK means you can build whatever ecosystem you want. We're open source. You don't even have to ask permission. You can just do whatever the hell you want. And we already did it, and there's almost no fees. So you're off to the races. And so this gentleman was like, "Yeah, in a year's time or so, I'm going to look you guys up, and I might just deploy something." And I was like, "Well, how would I know?" And he goes, "I'll tell you." And that was it. And so, yeah, there you go. Over and over again.
This is it. The tokenomic model that we employ, everyone is incentivized to join us. Like, why waste millions and more, tens or hundreds, building and marketing an alternative when our stakers could just vote to reduce fees down to zero?
Correct.
This is the thing. There are plenty of ways, legitimate ways. There are plenty of organic, real, legitimate ways to make money on our platform, either through developing lending or financial services for it, or just through providing real-world services and selling goods. The sheer potential for arbitrage markets on our network is huge. Once we deploy storefronts and market management. Just to quote, I didn't say this earlier, but I potentially am going to be joining the advisory on 2 different other companies. One which is doing sort of medical data, where they're like, "Yeah, we want to use your network to trade the medical data that we accrue." And the other was an STO platform that was thinking, "Yeah, I think we could definitely see synergies where we're trading a lot of the metadata and the market data that we accrue." And I was like, "Yes, you get it. Thank you." We're in a position, where we're not even factoring in like the cross-chain interoperability. We're not even factoring in the fact that we're deploying Bitcoin payments. And I think the community now understands that we're using SimpleSwap as our base for this initial deployment. Right. But it's a case of the more liquidity we get, the more part pairings we get. If SimpleSwap then decides, if the best thing the Particl community can do right now is basically lobby the other crypto communities to get part pairings with their coins on certain exchanges that SimpleSwap's linked to, because then SimpleSwap could literally do F part in client, or Ripple part or Dash part, or name those cryptos. We're offering non-speculative use case now for Bitcoin without having to go to a traditional third-party provider. It's not like Money 2020 where it's like, oh yeah, you go to a booth and you find someone, and yeah, we're offering a platform that integrates Bitcoin payments. No, to your e-commerce platform. No, we're an e-commerce platform that just allows you to transact directly with Bitcoin. And we could actually do that directly with any other crypto as well because of the way we operate. So we're now in a position to, where we could potentially absorb the entire market if we're really careful, clever about it. Mm-hmm. And if we're good about how we deploy and how we get. And the best thing is our foundation. The fact that we are running from a Swiss foundation, that we have our legal team that is willing to work with organizations rather than work against them with contra. I think there's a real benefit to that. I anticipate that some of our community members may not appreciate that advice that we do, because in the end of the day, if you want to expand, you have to integrate.
Yeah. Well, speaking to that too, as far as that was one of the always one of the things, we didn't build this just for part, right? We built it to a use case for other coins. You know, get people to actually use that and give them a tool to use. Going on to something different. So I was able to be at Consensus of Magical Crypto, not this event, but one of the things that came out of that, which I thought was surprising, but was that Mad Escrow was our Mad Escrow system, our two-party trustless system, was like the star of the show there. I mean, we had a lot of people there, like, just the fact that you figured that out, and that actually works trustlessly and permissionless, and two-person, was it like a big deal? Was that still the same case at this? Like, what what was the star of the show?
That escrow. If you start by explaining how that escrow works, people get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's from Remtech, from the Remtech onwards, it was the case of when I tried to explain how Particl enables you to do secure e-commerce without sign up, without giving personal information, and with no commissions. You just explain the escrow to start with. You go like, buyer puts a deposit, seller puts a deposit, the deposits are equal to the value of the item. Neither the buyer or the seller can access the escrow once it's locked, and they both, they have to agree it's gone through. But once people get that, they're like, penny drops, and they're like, yeah, and then all the other functions of this network fall into place so nicely, mm-hmm. and they get you can do pretty much zero fee e-commerce. To me, the Mad Escrow is pretty much the pivot point, and the fact that you can, the fact that we've got ring CT, hardware cold staking, you can configure the nodes to run on all this stuff. All of that stuff is just cherry on the top.
Right.
Yeah. And I just want to emphasize that the governance features has all been really well thought through. Coming on in 2017, I did not realize just how forward-thinking the team were, but it's seeing the deployments as they've occurred. To me, it's drawn me more and more, and it's made me more confident and more, like, wow.
Yeah. Well, even Joe, as a former, as an e-commerce background and stuff, and I know there's been other decentralized marketplaces that have tried to build on, like some kind of e-commerce or bartering, any kind of system where you need a moderator system, and you kind of kill that whole decentralized sort of middleman model, because you're actually putting, what's even worse in my opinion, adopting a centralized system that works when you can actually call up the person. Like if I have a problem with Amazon, I want that sort of system because I want a phone number so I can get it resolved. Mm-hmm. But to do that on a decentralized system, in my opinion, is even worse than to adopt that model onto it. But it was probably one of the biggest pushbacks we got, that nobody's going to want to do a two-person. It's like too different, It's something that it's too foreign. It's going to jumble everything up. But to hear that actually that's sort of like, that's sort of the driver, and sort of like as Cap said, once that's explained, everything else sort of falls into place. That's really encouraging to hear, and this isn't just the first time we've heard that. I mean, this is. And we didn't build the model, we didn't build this for just the escrow, but a lot of people are feeling like you could take the escrow out and use it to so many different things because it really works. So,
just also, can I just add to that? Whenever people say, "Oh, but can we not afford the collateral?" I'm like, well, we get an SDK out, and third-party service providers build lending tools or insurance tools to provide the collateral or insure for the collateral, and it's like, then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense, and then there's no more argument against it. And then you hear the arguments about, well, what about reputation? And then I start explaining storefronts, and I go, why don't you link the address of your storefront to your Amazon page, and then you're leveraging their rep or your eBay page, and then you can leverage the reputation you gain from Amazon or eBay on our platform. It's like there is no more argument against using our platform. Once our storefronts market management's deployed and Bitcoin payments is still, for me it's just SDK mobile apps with pivoting from SMSG to more robust network. But we're really advanced.
So not only that, but somebody else brought something up when I was at WCC from another blockchain project, and we were talking about other attempts inside the ecosystem to create kind of decentralized marketplaces, not even necessarily for consumer goods. There's a few other marketplaces inside crypto that are just for handling of like financial services. However, the interesting thing about what we've done is that some people on our side, on the Particl team, had some foresight to recognize that we had to make a good foundation first. I mean, obviously, if you ask our devs, they're going to have a million things they would like to have done to our code to make it better, or they would like to do to the code to make it better. However, unlike some of the other marketplaces that are either out or plan to come out, like for example, another popular marketplace that's not actually built on a blockchain itself. It accepts Zcash. Okay, Zcash. One of the potentially more privacy-centric digital currencies. However, using it on that marketplace, it serves as a tool to de-anonymize partially that entire blockchain, because they're using a marketplace that doesn't obfuscate the flow or where anything's going, et cetera, and us trying to build an incredibly fortified, a seller friendly marketplace compelled us to find a way to create either to not collect data to leak in the first place, and by us using SMSG, we've even decentralized the handling of information that is already encrypted anyway. And next thing you know, even if we were to use third-party integrations like non-custodial swaps to seek a higher degree of crypto agnosticism, we're still actually protecting the integrity of the other blockchains that are being utilized in our system that you can't do on other marketplaces. And there's other people that are understanding that even to a much higher degree than I do. I'm just so focused on what we're building, I sometimes kind of forget what else is happening inside the ecosystem. And so, I'm not the most technical person by far, but I understand a bit about what we're doing and why. And all that time we spent, that 2 years of development to build out on our own blockchain, the OMP library to handle the escrow in conjunction with the CT and the ring signatures, in conjunction with the SMSG. We just have built this really tight, beautiful little engine to try to create some, to try to break some of the trust issues that are present in basically all other systems. And I never had considered that platforms services like a decentralized marketplace, if not implemented correctly, can actually contribute to decay or entropy of privacy models inside other ecosystems. And it just kind of blows my mind all the time, the kind of things that I learn. And the struggle now for me personally is to figure out how to get what we've not only said we were going to do, we've already done, and that works out in front of more people, because every person that has half an idea of what they're looking at is very impressed by what we've achieved. We just have to keep getting it in front of more eyes and more eyes as much as humanly possible.
So that kind of, that's good, because I think that's kind of a nice little leeway, kind of like transition into, very successful events, great connections, a lot of follow-up. I guess what's the next steps then for us, or what do you guys see as, the next kind of direction for, obviously we've got product that's working, it's very well received, we're building more features in, constantly, from being boots on the ground, from having firsthand experience with either users or people that will be using it or onboarding stuff or whatever. What's the next steps, I guess. I know we've talked in the past about like the next pivot would be adoption, and Joe, you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but anything that you guys want to add as far as what that means? Is it a new onboarding of more advisors that some partnerships, different things like that?
I think, if I can sort of interject, I think
Sure.
what I've realised in this conference is that as an organisation, as a foundation, we're now entering the stage where development is pretty much matured, is accelerated, is delivering very rapidly. Now what we need to do is, as you've said, raise awareness and increase adoption. Now, part of that isn't just us attending conferences, it's expanding our advisory, expanding our foundation, bringing more people from different specialties on board, getting more people from the business community, from the e-commerce community, from the investment community into our community, and effectively realizing the benefits of joining our and of promoting our platform, not just for themselves but for everyone around them. Now, I think the foundation as an organization needs to do some restructuring to pivot towards that. I certainly think we need more representation at we need to do more of these conferences, more of these events, more of the media, more of the outreach, more of the flow, more of the communications. A lot of the people that we've met, we need to just really get in touch with them, get really organized, start speaking to them, having dialogues. It's at least 100 people, probably 200 or 300 realistically. I've not even counted. That we need to start just getting a dialogue with them, seeing who's interested. Pretty much everyone that we talk to, the smart ones especially, they see all of the avenues through which that they can succeed through. To say that, to just really detour, if you look at global market cap of economies, it's gone from millions to billions to trillions. I believe that crypto can take us to quintillions and numbers that are unimaginable, and I think part of it could be part of that wave that drives and catalyzes this movement. But really, it's about us working together with people, pursuing our leads, and getting people to understand what we're doing at the level. Now, what you'll find is what Joe's been explaining, what you've been explaining, is that different people understand it in different ways, but I've yet to see there aren't that many people. I think Brian would, he gets it on so many levels. I would love to meet him, by the way. I feel like the guy would be hugging, you know what I mean? Like, you guys would be like, yeah, you guys are awesome, yeah. But that's actually the caliber of people that this project attracts. We are attracting lots of people. But it's really about forging those relationships right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think one of the first steps is the getting other crypto communities into the space. So the fact that Bitcoin, we're going to bring in that community, that really gets it outside of Particl, and that's a very large community that's really excited, and working on ways to make that more and more of an integration, I think, is a good thing as well. That's the first step if you get other communities involved, you're bringing in a lot more users. Daily users is huge for decentralized apps, and liquidity, transactions, all that kind of stuff.
I just want to say, if the Bitcoin community can actually understand that what we're doing benefits them in a huge way, and if they want to pivot to, if whatever they want to be, we can provide real value to them, real service, and you can pivot away from fiat. I think we provide a service as currency, as commerce, that Bitcoin is perfect. And I think it's Bitcoin community, and I'm actually going to make an appeal to Bitcoin Maximus here. I want you to look at our platform, stop, take a step back, don't try to criticize, but go, hey, if we use this, if we encourage people to use this, more money is going to flow into Bitcoin. More money is going to flow into Bitcoin and the ecosystem, and they're going to be using it to transact with us. And hell, if you transact with us, sell and go back to Bitcoin for all I care. I don't care.
Right.
But at the end of the day, more fiat values entering our ecosystem, that's going to catalyze another Bitcoin. And I think we can be one of the parties that help build it, independent of ETFs or other speculative financial instruments. You cannot rely on that forever. You're not going to convince pension funds or hedge fund guys to hold digital gold. That's got a niche. No, you need to have a real non-speculative use case. And this is my appeal to Bitcoin Maximus. Stop pretending that it's the only thing that matters. E-commerce is actually the very real way forward, and I believe we can work together to play a profitable for both parties. That's what we make it feel like it.
Yeah.
I mean, this might even be a bit of a controversial opinion that I'm sure people that are going to see this are going to enjoy. But I would even take it almost a step further to say that not only do I feel that the Bitcoin community, including the maximalists or whomever, should be looking favorably upon what we're doing because we're trying to bring a use case. I would almost go so far as to say is that whether or not whether or not anyone ever gives us this torch, I kind of feel that we are the unofficial privacy and also commerce layer that Bitcoin always needed. And this will definitely get me attacked the next time I go to a big conference. But it's just some of us have been around for a long time, and we were there when the original mentions in the code for BTC in 2010 had a marketplace in it. Well, I think it was 2009, right?
Right.
It's just some people are still carrying the original fire, and I think that we're some of those people. And the fact that we are maintaining absolute lockstep compatibility with the Bitcoin code base, in my mind, is the hard work already done that would kind of earn us the unofficial title of a privacy and commerce layer. It just so happens that we would like to see everyone using it, not just Bitcoin, which all.
No, I know Joe's
usage.
Go ahead, Joe. You can finish.
Oh, yeah, usage is usage, and what we've effectively created here is a tool to bring more people into, owning their own wealth, self-sovereignty, and also, increasing adoption of digital currencies and blockchain technology. That's what we built, and it's not about part at all. Part is just, and our blockchain is just, it's a tool of trying to achieve more crypto adoption worldwide.
Definitely. That's it. It's a tool. The way we're building this platform, again, as I wrote in that article I did earlier, it's like the way we're building this, we don't really need to know that the settlements are being off, because we can be building into our platform that just go, oh yeah, you're buying on the Particl marketplace with Bitcoin or Ethereum or Dogecoin or name your coin. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to, unless you happen to have an interest in staking on our network, or unless you happen to be a developer. So the vision I see is you don't really need to understand the underlying dynamics of our network. Spend.com gets going to say that, and I'm not going to presume for them, but I think, looking forward at the overall roadmap, the number of integrations that not just only with them but with other providers, without end users even needing to really know that they're transacting in crypto, I think it's unimaginable for most people unless they're really on cutting edge of it. I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I still keep getting space that I've never thought of. For me, that's really encouraging. I think if we can all shed our maximalist isolation ideologies aside, and just realize that in order for the space to grow, that we can together and start going, hey, let's work together and expand our space rather than go, this is it, this is our unique niche. I'm a ripple guy or whatever. That's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, that's essentially, you're playing a zero-sum game down to zero at that point. What we're doing is providing a platform that allows the whole. I think that's a really key thing to get.
I agree. I would say that for me, the dream didn't stop with Bitcoin, and I don't think the dream should stop with Particl or whatever else is going to happen. This is a forever process.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, hey guys, this is an awesome update. We're an hour in, so seems like probably a good time to say, like, that's a great recap. I know we're all in different time zones. Joe and I are probably in the same one. Cap's like early in the morning, I'm assuming, over across the sea, across the pond, whatever.
It's very early, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very British.
But I guess, yeah. Well, I hope everybody that's listening gets a good feel for everything that went down over the last month as far as going to events, and can see like there's some next steps now. Adoption's going to be a big topic. Who's already in this space that we can team up with. That like Joe said, like there's no need to really rebuild certain things. Let's leverage those, and there's people already doing certain things. There's partnerships that can be had. So I like that charge to what's the next steps as far as sort of adoption, maybe slowly into a mainstream adoption. Obviously we got a bunch to go before then, but yeah, well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Any last thoughts, I guess, before we wrap it up and call this one a show?
No, it's good. Actually.
It's good.
Joe? I would say that my parting words would probably just be a personal appeal for me directly at the community itself. It's been a long road, and many of you that are going to be watching this have been with us, sometimes angrily and sometimes happily for this whole time. But I would strongly encourage all of you out there to possibly consider volunteering or trying to help us go to any of these events in the future, especially if it's an event you think we should attend that's nearby you. It helps us preserve funds, and it just makes it much easier for us to coordinate. Two, just to echo exactly what Cap said earlier, like we need people using this platform. And I'm gonna beg everyone out there that sees this. I know that you might really not want to get into playing Warhammer 40K on a tabletop with your friends, but there's a bunch of minis in our market right now that are for sale in Britain. Somebody should buy those and reward that person that's deciding to list it. Reward the seller that's listing these items. And we need such a small spark to kind of light this fuse. And I see it, I understand it. I'm well aware of just exactly how little traction or adoption it will take to cause us to pull away from just this complete speculative, cycle that most of cryptocurrency's in. And I'll be damned if I'm gonna, be around while, and watch partly stuff like this forever. One way or another, we have to break free, and we already have the most basic toolkit to do so. So use the damn platform, buy the stuff, sell the stuff, and encourage everyone to do it, because it just makes every single thing we need to do in the future a little bit easier. And so, be the person that bought one of the first 5,000, Tesla Model 3s, or be the person that did whatever it was first. Just be those people and use this thing, or help us help us do it because we're a small team and a lot of us are volunteers. And if you go to a show like this, Cap and we're going to spend weeks of nearly full-time hours doing nothing more than corresponding with all these different people. And most of these connections might not wind up panning out in any kind of a lasting benefit mutually, but some will. But it all takes a tremendous amount of time. And I just wish that, we could get a community that's even bigger than it is now. And I just appreciate what everyone's done. And I just would strongly encourage everybody to, trade us. Use the marketplace. Tell all your friends. Just do whatever it takes because we have what we need to get started on, building, the new, better future. And we just gotta start doing it.
That's great. Yeah, that's a good way to wrap it up, I think. Just help out. That's great. Cap, any last words?
I agree with Joe fully.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just rely on us to do all the hard work for you. Okay? We want you to be involved, and the more involved you are, the more successful this project will be.
That's great. Very cool. Well, that's a good charge, I think, from you guys. And hey, I appreciate all the work that you guys put in, and thanks for giving us an hour of your time to debrief. For those of you guys that are watching the project, we've got a Discord channel that you can get in there. Download the client if you have it. I mean, you heard all the people raving about it. Get on there, start selling stuff, start buying stuff. It's a lot of fun, actually. So, and it's super powerful. I mean, it's very freeing. Appreciate you guys checking in, and thanks again, guys, Joe and Cap, for joining, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Appreciate it.
Take it easy.